All right. What?
No, you're live. Go.
Yeah,
go.
we're live. We're live.
We should observe the ancient ritual of traditional pre-fight donuts.
Yeah! Fear does not exist in this dojo, does it?
Am I the baddest mofo low down around this time?
Shut up!
Break, not hit back.
Silly Caucasian girl likes to play with samurai swords.
You will all refer to me by the name Betty.
I know Kung Fu.
Thank you, Chuck Norris.
I said I don't want trouble.
Only a ninja can destroy a ninja.
Defeat does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, Sensei!
Now, who wants to go home? And who wants to go with me?
All right, and we're live. Welcome to the Kickflix podcast. Kickflix, your favorite podcast, where you come to watch and listen to people rewatch, talk, and laugh at your favorite martial art movie podcast. Your favorite martial art movies. Listen, man.
Other martial arts movie podcasts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck those guys.
Did you see fucking Roundhouse, the movie, the martial art movie podcast? Fucking garbage.
Will forever be embattled with Punchflix, the true enemy of Kickflix.
You know who I really fucking hate? Roundhouse Plus. You think there's other podcasts named similar to streaming services, but with a different martial arts twist?
I just thought you meant Ronda Roundhouse Rousey.
No, I meant like we're like.
No, that's not even her name. Fuck, never mind.
We're like Netflix, but with a kick. And I wonder if there's somebody else there that it's like we're like Disney Plus, but with a punch, and it's like
Smash
Hulu, like Hulu Plus. It's like a punch. It's Punch Plus or some shit. I don't know.
It's Disney, but KNEE at the end.
Oh yeah,
Disney. Oh yeah, Disney Plus. I am Neri. 11 minutes signs. With me as usual is Mike Roundhouse Mercadal, and we have Jeff Throat Punch Mercancini. For those of you wondering, 11 minutes is because that's how much screen time the real Bruce Lee had in the movie Game of Death, which is today's movie, this week's movie, Game of Death.
Fact.
Not you, Neri. I'm talking about Neri in the comment. We are the Game of Death. I feel like it's unfair to call this a Bruce Lee movie.
Or a movie.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think I kind of heard something about, to the listener, if you don't know, like I did not know. When I turned this movie on, that this movie has literally 11 minutes of actual Bruce Lee footage in the movie. The rest is done with body doubles and hiding faces and shadows and a real bad. If you're watching the video version of this, if you listen to the audio, go back to watch the video version of this podcast, because you'll see in the back of behind Jeff, there is a picture that's clearly they used the Jib Jab app to do a bobblehead thing, but that was in the film. It was not done to be funny. Like this is not a comedy or spoof of things. I didn't know this, right? I heard, like, I remember a few years ago somebody told me that such and such movie, he passed away while filming this movie, so there was like an alternate ending or some shit like that. They had to like rearrange something. I was not.
But we'll get into it.
That's not what happened. This is like a fucking complete. Yeah. This is not his film, and I felt really bad about this. I'm like, what? Anyway, so let's get started. Game of Death came out in 1978, right? Not to be confused with other Game of Deaths.
There is other Game of Deaths.
Yeah.
If you're out there, this is not. There's literally a movie on Tubi. Jeff and I were talking about it. That it says Bruce Lee or something. Last Fight, the Game of Death, or whatever, and it's literally not Bruce Lee at all. It's a completely different movie.
And to be fair, to be clear, it's another movie that does not have Bruce Lee.
Exactly, it's not this
movie that doesn't have Bruce Lee. It's yet another movie that does not have Bruce Lee.
Right. So we're talking about Game of Death, 1978. And the synopsis summary: a martial arts movie star must fake his death to find the people who are trying to kill him. I mean, a lot of inaccuracies here because he knew who was trying to kill him.
Yes,
He totally knew. And for our younger fans, our parents with small kids who are listening to the Kickflix movie podcast, we're gonna go through the parents' guide. This movie is rated R. Sex and nudity. What do we think, guys? None. Absolutely
Okay.
none. Violence and gore?
Moderate.
Correct. Are you reading along on the
No.
I was like, damn, Neary.
No, there was a lot of fighting by stunt doubles in this movie.
It's a lot of yes. Which I'm gonna when we do our summer when we square up, I'm gonna have a controversial opinion potentially. Lots of kung fu fighting. A man is shot and has blood on his head.
Oh yeah.
It was actually his face, but yeah.
I mean, his face is on his head, so both
Yeah.
are accurate.
So.
Profanity. Where are we? Profanity.
I'm gonna say mild because I feel like there was a couple cuss words in there if I remember.
Mild. There is, and again, once we have a receipt. There is a bastard, damn, bitch, ass, hell, Christ.
Ooh, the Lord's name.
And 2 S words, which you took the time to write out ass and bastard and damn and Christ, and then you're like S words. Once again, IMDb, please tell me where these people comment. I want to follow them and read their reviews. Alcohol, drugs, and smoking.
Mild.
1 character smokes. That's correct.
Yeah.
Frightening and intense scenes.
If you consider the
whole
Colleen Camp's
movie.
acting, I would probably put it at moderate.
It is absolutely moderate, but it's some intense fights, and then Billy Lowe gets shot in the Fist of Fury ending scene,
right?
Which was like, again, just the sheer mechanics of how this movie became a movie is wild to me. Spoilers. We're gonna get into the spoilers. Sex and nudity. At the end of the film, you can see in the other clip that there was a kissing part, but not too graphic, not sex, not nudity, just happy kissing part. Which in that case, that scene at the end was from Fist of Fury.
Yeah.
At the end of the violence and gore, at the end of the film were some fighting violences. I don't know if these were translated by Google Translate somewhere.
Fighting violences.
At the end of the film, there were some fighting violences.
I like it.
That, you know what? That's my new fighting violences. Frightening and intense scenes. There was a funeral clip, but Billy did not die. That it was fake might upset for some viewers. I mean,
but it's not fucking fake.
Here, okay.
That is a real dead body.
Okay.
That is literally Bruce Lee's dead corpse on.
We can't get ahead of ourselves. We can't get ahead of
All
ourselves.
right.
We can't get ahead of ourselves.
I'm so angry at this movie. I'm so mad at this movie.
As it is.
Do I still sound weird, by the way?
You sound better.
Better.
Okay.
And that's it. Taglines. Jeff, what do we got?
One tagline: Bruce Lee challenges the underworld.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. My alarm.
Wow, that is the clearest you've ever sounded.
Yeah. No, the best too is that
alarm.
worked. I thought he made the error like it wasn't Bruce Lee.
I thought, he's got the soundboard active.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's what I did. That was it.
Land.
Not my heartburn medication warning. That was definitely a joke to say it was not Bruce Lee. That's what it was.
Bruce Lee.
Side note, that is one of those things whenever I see like a post-apocalyptic film or like a survival film where I'm like, well, he has to sleep without a CPAP machine, so I'm out. I'm dead. He's camping? Oh, he's surviving out in the woods without a thing? The snoring would give me away immediately. All right. I'm sorry. Go on, Jeff.
Bruce Lee, in air quotes, challenges the underworld to a game of death. I don't buy any of that shit at all.
That wasn't what? No, okay.
Yeah, that's the tagline.
All right. Okay, let's square up, Mike.
Oh, here we go.
Square up. This movie is not any worse in terms of story than any other martial arts movie. The audacity that it exists is the problem, right?
Yes.
Like a famous celebrity martial artist, like a Bruce Lee figure, who is being coerced by some organized crime syndicate, literally called a syndicate, racketeering, threatening his actress, his singer girlfriend, like all of these things. Honestly, not bad. And I will say this: the action sequences, because they had to literally not fight for hours. The movie is hours long without showing this dude's face, like full on, clearly letting him emote or anything. Like the fact that the fighting scenes had to be shot in a certain way, they were still not bad for the time.
Correct.
The whole movie itself is an okay. Like if they would have just let that guy, like here's my thing, they should have just let that guy act. And then when he gets shot in the face and they have to do surgery, that's when they show only the Bruce Lee things, because we wouldn't have known. Who cares? It would have been somebody else.
I have a different take on that. Go ahead.
I understand that it's not a good take. I'm just saying that the audacity of these filmmakers.
You're like what's his name? You're like from Family Guy, where he was like, what grinds my gears? Nobody's come up with a good Pollock joke, and he goes, how about this one? And he just spits one off. He goes, is it good? No, but at least I'm trying.
The fact that they straight up showed this motherfucker's dead body. The fact that they straight up
Hold on.
Yeah. The fact that they showed the funeral, the fact that they rewrote the entire movie to use 30 minutes of footage that was whittled down to 11 is the gall on these film, the balls to then invite the only person that came back from the original footage was Danny Nosanto, the nunchuck guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the Jeet Kune Do guy that I studied under his student, right? Of course he went for the money. He wasn't as famous as fucking James Coburn or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He wasn't, but genuinely, like, the problem with this movie was not the story or anything. It was the actors were terrible. The story would have been like, if you could make that movie right now and it would be good. You're muted.
You're muted, Neri.
The fact that
they did make it. They did make it again.
Yeah, they did. They did.
What?
No, it's on Tubi.
Not even that. They did.
I know.
No. They did do this movie again. We reviewed it last time. It's The Last Dragon. Think about it. It's a movie. It's some people that are trying to control producing music and movies, and they're trying to strong arm the celebrity to signing to working with them and to promote them and get them. So they literally did the same premise in The Last Dragon.
Pretty much. But that was a bit long-winded for a square up. So Jeff, square up.
This movie offended me to my goddamn core. Like
to the listener, I just want to point this out. The passion in which Jeff is speaking right now, he was not this offended at other movies that Kickflix has done that is highly racist. Like that is just, but this movie is just other level offensive.
This movie, Mike said most of it. The gall of Golden Harvest to be like, hey, we sold distribution rights to Japan. We need to come up with some shit. And they decide to just piss on the story. I don't disagree that the story has some potential, but the way that they went about doing this story to me was a fucking shitty version of a Bond movie. It was an awful version of a Bond movie. The main guy was basically Blofeld. Like this was a crappy attempt at a Bond movie. And then
this was prime Bond era though.
Well, George Lazenby was supposed to be in the movie. The day that Bruce Lee died, he had a meeting scheduled with Lazenby to meet for him to be in the movie. And it never happened. But like this movie to me, it's just I don't want to go too much into it because we'll talk about it eventually in the episode. But I was just, Mike mentioned it, the fact that they used actual footage of Bruce Lee's funeral, close-ups of his body in the casket to get shots for this film bothers the hell out of me. And knowing after the fact, and I know I did this. I forgot what was the other movie that I did it. The other movie that I did it where they I read what the movie was supposed to be, and it bothered me. I think was it 47 Ronin?
Oh yeah. 47 Ronin. You were upset that they didn't.
Once we talk about what the actual script Bruce Lee movie he was doing, it is a million times better than what they promoted for this and what they did for this, and we'll get into that. But sorry, that's my 60 seconds.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo all of that. The story is. I was watching this movie for a minute, and I was like, the story is not bad, and it's like it's a good story. I actually said, man, the story is actually interesting. I would be interested in watching this movie if it wasn't for the obvious and like almost disrespectful level of insulting the audience into like, are we supposed to? Did you think this was gonna fool anybody? Like this,
right?
And it wasn't for one or two scenes. It wasn't like, bro, the movie was 80% done, and we just needed some, like, you know what I mean, some faraway shots. It wasn't any. You know what this felt like? This felt like we were watching the martial arts version of Bowfinger. Did you ever watch Bowfinger?
Yes.
Shit.
Yes.
Where they're like, where they filmed the movie with Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy's character didn't know that they were filming a movie with him. He's like, look, we just need a couple of close-ups, a couple of blah, 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 and the movie's 80% done. I thought that this was it. Like, are you really trying to pass us off as if, like, we, the audience, are supposed to buy this shit? I was okay with the story. In fact, I was kind of interested in the movie if it wasn't for the fact that it's supposed to be Bruce Lee. And then I was just like, and then I found out and then, like, hearing this, like that was the actual funeral. Like, I'm today years old. I'm this minute years old when I found that out, that that's actually Bruce Lee's funeral. That's fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
Disrespectful. And to me, I'm just like, why don't you just do this movie and not use any of the fucking footage? Because you basically didn't. You used 11 minutes of an. If you would have said, bro, the movie's fucking 35 minutes long, or we have 35 minutes and we're gonna do an hour, that's stretching it. But you use 11 minutes of footage, and you made an hour and a half movie, and you're still and then he still shows up as the credits. And the stunt double does it, and just like, oh boy, I would have been fucking pissed more with that stunt double.
Mike, I watched, because you mentioned 30 minutes. I watched another documentary that said it was actually 100 minutes of footage, of fight footage that Bruce Lee had recorded,
but not finished. It was they shot 100 minutes of them acting and multiple takes and the fighting and all that stuff, and with actual Cantonese dialogue and all that stuff. But the edited what's usable is like 30 something minutes.
That makes sense.
And so let's get into it, because I will say, when I first watched this movie, I was watching this movie realizing, the first experience I have with this was when I was studying Jeet Kune Do and I was studying martial arts, and I watched the documentary. I just had the name in front of me. Bruce Lee, A Warrior's Journey. It was a 2000 documentary from the year 2000, and they show you like the 30 something minutes. Like, that's the only place that was like the first place you could actually see the video of that thing. So I realized don't think I've ever watched the actual Game of Death. I've only seen the
30-minute
footage as Game of Death. And I was like, because there's a bunch of little things, like the light bothering Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is not present in this finished version, but was very important to the first one. The fighting the Hapkido guy, learning that he can grab and throw and all that stuff, and adapting his fighting style. This was at the peak of that Jeet Kune Do philosophy bullshit. Not bullshit, but like the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. And all these things that he was going to be, all of his theories on adaptability and a form of a martial art with no form, and all of this stuff. This was like going to be the masterpiece of that, which, to be fair, probably would have been amazing, but the original storyline sucked. It was trash. And it was like, they kidnapped my brother and sister, and now I got to fight for the honor of China. And I'm like, well, that's...
Well, no, it was kind of, because there was something at the top of the pagoda and then they had to fight. But I like the idea of that whole like fighting your way. Yeah, okay, Neri's back, because Neri doesn't know the original premise.
Oh, did you not? Okay.
He didn't know the original premise, so
No, I've watched this movie for the first time today. This is the first time I watched the movie.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say is that the original premise that it would have been a okay. So he was shooting the original pieces that they used when he got the offer to do Enter the Dragon. And Enter the Dragon was a huge opportunity, so he took it, leaving all of this undone, right? And it was supposed to be his, all of the stuff where he's doing the MMA in the beginning of Enter the Dragon. That was like another way of him doing Jeet Kune Do, mixed martial arts, all that shit. Then when that he took from what Game of Death was supposed to be, or at least that's in theory. And then the story involved him getting a
he got kidnapped.
No, like this it was, oh god, because it's so prevalent. The climbing a pagoda, the climbing the building has been used a million times. It was the first time that they were developing that idea, and him going up the levels and fighting a different guy each time. Someone, I can't remember who it was, started referring to these kind of movies, as the influence that it had, as kind of arcade movie, where you've had to face certain levels and beat the bosses, and that's when, like, almost like being inspired by video games, like they kind of inspired each other. And that was what the point of this was, to show his adaptability, and the Jeet Kune Do adapts to different martial arts, and then at the end, style beats power, where he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then there was another guy up at the top, and that was supposed to be the main bad thing.
But what happened, Neri, is that his sister and brother get kidnapped by the mafia, by the but I think it's the Asian mob in this one. It's not like the Italian mafia. It was supposed to be
triads,
or the triads, and they say that there's something at the top of the pagoda that he has to make his way up to get it. But like one of the scenes that they used in the final cut of this movie, that he's telling that backstory of the guy that fought, and you see him fight Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That is one of the other guys that he's fighting up the pagoda with in the original cut. In the original cut, it's him and two other guys working their way up the pagoda, fighting these people. And the thing is like what Mike said, is that he actually had it mapped out, and they show it. I think they showed in The Warrior's Way, Mike, the pagoda that he drew, and he goes, in the first one, I'm going to fight the Aikido master. And it's going to show that because I have no style, Jeet Kune Do has no style. It's
the
fluid.
Hapkido guy, because it was supposed to go to South Korea. It's technically wasn't like the Chinese. They were the pagoda was supposed to be in South Korea.
Okay.
And I don't know what reasoning they're specific, but I guess it had to do with the fact that the Hapkido martial art in Korea was like, he had beef with some Hapkido stylists, that he was like, fuck your art. The same classic bullshit of like, my kung fu is better than your kung fu.
My tea is better than your tea.
But it was basically, it's true. At its core, the original story was just him trying to show how big his dick is with Jeet Kune Do, of like, look, I can beat every single one of these styles because since I have no style, I can adapt to their styles. That's what the original premise. But I think it would have been dope as hell. I like that. The Raid, we're gonna get to that eventually on this. The Raid is a successor to this.
How great would it be if that was the next movie that the Wheel picked?
Oh, I would love it.
I would love that movie.
But yeah. And the thing is it's funny because I guess we can talk about the pagoda first, because since there's only 11 minutes of the movie and the rest of it ties into it, like. The fact that when he has the nunchuck battle, like he has matching nunchucks to his jumpsuit, and he's like, they do this, and then they had to tie that in with that awful fucking warehouse scene with the bikers that were the Power Rangers.
I liked the motorcycle fight scene. I genuinely liked
garbage.
No. I liked. Here, let me put it to you this way. I liked all of the ideas in this movie. I did not like their execution. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Jackie Chan did a motorcycle fight scene in Rumble in the Bronx. Like the idea of using that motorcycle to like accelerate and like as a like jousting.
No, right,
almost.
but we're not talking about
what could have been. Yeah.
We're not saying but we're not saying that the motorcycle fight scene was bad because it was a motorcycle fight scene. We're saying that it was shoehorned into we need a reason for
get him in
our
the yellow.
stunt double to get him in a yellow jumpsuit.
Yes.
It's like shoehorn. It's like we have this idea. How do we make it fit? And it's like this. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, like
Weird.
the opening scene when you see them and he's like they're tailing him, not being subtle at all with the giant walkie-talkie, like the transistor radio on the bicycle, on the motorcycle. And I saw the different jumpsuits. I was like, oh, so this is how they're doing that. Oh,
yes,
okay.
absolutely. I mean, well, to be fair, okay, once you get past the given that this movie is a fucking offensive cash grab, capitalizing on the death of an icon. Like once you get past it, and if you're a Woo Bro listener and you hear us do Am I the Asshole, we don't review the speculation. We don't. We talk about what's in
what's
the
given.
post.
Yeah.
What's given in this movie. If we're reviewing it as the
that's what I said on my. That's what I was talking about on my square up. I there was a moment there where I forgot that this was supposed to be a Bruce Lee movie. I'm like, I like where this is going. I like the whole fight thing. I like the whole fight tournament and that he beats. I dressed as an old man. I'm like, this was a cool story.
I like that too.
I like that. I like the fact that what he says to the girl, he's like, what needs to be done is already being done or whatever the fuck. And I was like, that's super dope. I like all of that, but it was like if you gave me all of that without the insulting, and by insulting I don't mean disrespectful to the dead man. That's another level. I'm talking about the insult as an audience member. Like, don't insult me, my intelligence, and making me like, really, I'm supposed to believe? Like, who the fuck are you kidding? Like, this is not believable to anybody. It's not. This isn't the equivalent of like, what was much more believable? All right, so there was one time I was watching a movie and I could have sworn I saw some stunt doubles, but I was like, oh, fuck it. You know what? They nailed it. They got it. They nailed it, and I was like, it's fine. Yeah. That was okay to me. But when you do a whole movie based on stunt doubles and like, I'm like, no, just don't give me that. Don't insult my intelligence.
My problem is,
yeah.
No, go ahead, Mike. Sorry,
I the stunt double part of it. Again, I'm really trying not to review the story behind production. I'm trying to review
I'm trying to review
itself.
So the movie itself, I liked a lot of parts of what the movie that they gave me. I'm like, I would just, it was almost like if you would have just taken the whole Bruce Lee thing out of here, this would have been so much better for me. I would have been good with it.
It would not have been marketed though. Like no one would have released it. Like the only reason this movie is on the wheel is because this is the movie that came out after Bruce Lee died. Like this was his.
I gotta be honest with you. The only reason I didn't. So I'm today years old when I found this whole thing out. When I was watching a movie for 30 seconds, saw him fighting Chuck Norris. I go, wow, this scene's already happening. I thought Chuck Norris was the last guy.
Who has a credit in the movie and sued them because they put him in the movie and gave him a credit?
It's weird because he got a credit, but his back fur didn't, and I found that weird. I'm like, does his back fur have a better agent?
Why is that man wearing a sweater? Chuck Norris. Got it.
Chuck Norris.
It's true. It's true. What were you gonna say, Jeff?
So what I was gonna say is, to me, this is another Undisputed. The editing in this movie fucked up what could have been an amazing story.
I like the rap in this movie better than Undisputed, though.
There was not enough Master P doing a national anthem before the Sunny fight, and but like
explain what you mean by editing, because I think the acting in this movie was pretty rough from all parties included, and also the audio dubbing was a big problem in this movie for me.
I'm not saying it's the only reason why this movie's trash. I'm just referring to the part where, because you guys are saying it's a good story, but like the editing, dude, there's even in the opening scene when they're filming that the light falls down and the actor turns around and then they get the stock footage. Of the other movie, and he's facing the other way that the actor's facing. So that's literally the moment where I go, wait, what the fuck did I just see? And I had to rewind it. And then I went to the group chat and I go, hey, is Bruce Lee in this movie? Because that's one of that was an honest question. That wasn't me trying to be funny. I was like, is he in this movie? Yeah, they didn't even adjust
yes and no.
it.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Like they should have they could have filmed it on the older camera and been like, let's not use the newer shit so it looks like how that looks. So at least we can hide it a little better. Because whenever you see those shots of Bruce, it's grainy. and then the other shots are less grainy. It's still 70s grainy, but it's less grainy. But the acting adds on to the garbage of this movie.
I'm gonna say I don't think they get enough credit for the shit that they pulled off. They used they
like
had
this
30
right
minutes of
like
footage,
like this
and
right
they
here.
did in 1978.
Look.
Do you understand how bad stuff was in 1978 and how low the budget was? For them to have found like the faces.
I gotta be honest with you.
That's a lot of work for some.
I wonder. By the way, he died in 1974 or something.
Yes.
It wasn't like he just died this year and we're gonna put this movie out next year. It's like they worked on this shit for years. I wonder if when they were doing all these editing and hiding his face and like, oh, he's walking and he just happens to be walking where there's a piece of shadow fucking trailing his face everywhere. I wonder if during a screening of the movie, if anybody, including the directors and producers of the studio, were thinking to themselves, man, these fucking guys are magicians. These editors. I couldn't even tell. I thought it was him. I thought it was him.
There.
It's a bunch of coked up white guys going like, they all look the same anyway. Yeah, no one's going to be able to tell.
Just put the big ass sunglasses on him.
Yeah, just put some big sunglasses on him.
Oh, man.
I will say that I did like the tie-in of like straight up like hey, this is what is his name? Billy Lowe, but it's straight up Bruce Lee in Bruce Lee movies. Like they literally are using clips of his movie. Like that was I'm just talking about the sheer the balls on these people to make this movie is at the same time incredibly offensive, but also kind of inspiring.
Well, that's what I said. I made this statement to my wife. We were watching it together, and I made this statement to my wife. I'm like, I'm equal parts impressed and appalled by the fucking sheer, like, you're gonna put this movie out, like, wow, way good, man, fucking way to go, trying to put this movie, all right, good for you. And then at the same time going like, are you in the documentaries that you guys saw about this? Does it say anything about their families, about how his family, his wife and daughter, because his daughter runs his Instagram now, and his daughter's very vocal, especially like against Tarantino, because Tarantino put out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and how he was portrayed in that movie, and his daughter's very vocal on that front, on like his legacy, on how he's perceived nowadays. So I don't know. I wanted to there's a part of me that if I would have watched this movie like a week ago, I would have reached out to her. Like, I don't know if she would have responded, but I would have been like, hey, we're doing this podcast. Can I get like your thoughts on like how I'm offended for you? Like, is that all right? Like, I don't know how you guys took it. But is there anything in the documentary about how his wife or family feels about this movie?
I remember they were not on board, especially especially that they included a white wife for the actor. Like they literally made it about Bruce Lee. Yeah. And that was I think one of the big things that the family had a problem with, where and also like Chuck Norris sued, like the use of footage without his permission. Like he never signed off to have any of this other footage be like, he died, So
let me get this straight. So Chuck Norris sued why? Because he wasn't supposed to be in.
They gave him if you look at the opening credits, Chuck Norris is listed in the opening credits.
Right.
But all they did was use his footage from
a previous movie.
From the previous movie from
because I've not seen the only movie I've seen of Bruce Lee is Enter the Dragon.
Right. Yeah, no,
right?
and the other movie, which I think it's Way of the Dragon now, but it was called something else before because they swapped the names of a bunch of the movies. Like Big Boss, Boss wasn't that's now is not the original Big Boss. That was the name of another movie.
They shuffled all of everything back one or something. Like I can't remember, but it was some dumbass shit like that.
Now here's a crazy part too. So the studio brought in Robert Klaus, who directed Enter the Dragon, to do this movie. He, I guess, realized how fucked up this movie was going to be, and he did it under a pseudonym. He didn't even use his real name as the director of this movie. He was like, no.
I think that I remember that there was something that he couldn't Alan Smithy it because it was not an American production. Right. That it wasn't like a Hollywood studio production, so he just had to use a suit, like a fake. He's like, yeah, this,
I would have gone. You know what I would have gone with? I would have gone with Billy Lowe. directed this movie.
Billy
It's
Lowe
like-
Billy Lowe.
directed this movie.
Which,
Yeah,
by
just
the way,
put fucking Bruce Lee directed it from Beyond the Grave. You've had the balls to like you know what I mean? Like, come on.
well, you want to laugh? Speaking that you mentioned that, the guy who plays Bruce Lee in this movie played the ghost of Bruce Lee in No Retreat, No Surrender.
Holy shit! Remember that? That was one of the. I think I believe I want to say that was the original old school pick on Woobro. If you listen to the Woobro episode, I believe that was the original old school pick.
He was the ghost of Bruce Lee in No Retreat, No Surrender.
And I remember him in No Retreat, No Surrender sounding much more like Bruce Lee.
Well, because they English dubbed them in this one.
Yeah, no, this was all so
Neri, they dubbed the Hayas of Bruce Lee. Like his original ones were in the Asian releases of this movie. For the American version, they dubbed the Hayas by an American person.
I want to be in that meeting. I want to be in that meeting where like we have to. Sir, do you want us to dub the Hayas as well? Yeah, you're getting paid fucking to dub this movie. You're dubbing every fucking movie. You're dubbing every line.
I
want you to
imagine
add
a
it
lot
to
of it.
every punch.
I would imagine a lot of it has to do with the again, like this feels like they made this against somebody's will. Like they literally were like,
society.
Fuck you.
It feels like they made this against everybody's will.
Yeah. Even against their own will, I think.
You're like, oh, fuck yeah.
I mean, well, like when you think about that, it's so much of what's listed in the IMDb. Like the word archival footage comes up so much that it's hard to rationalize. Like what you realize, archival footage just means other movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they literally just lifted shit from other movies. It's wild.
Didn't he play Bruce? Didn't this guy play Bruce Lee in another movie as well?
Well, there was a bunch. There's a few movies that came out of this. There's one that I hope to God I can find so we can put it on the wheel called The Clones of Bruce Lee, where Bruce Lee L.I., Bruce Lee L-I-Y-L-E-I, and Bruce, I think Lowe or Bruce something up, not Lowe, but Bruce something else,
Billy
all
Lowe,
play clones of Bruce Lee. And they kept on with these movies, but it just blows my mind. They got the composer for the Bond films to do the score because for the opening score for this movie, and it was out. They got a bunch of like the two bad guys are Oscar winning actors. Both of them won Oscars.
Did Chuck Norris win his lawsuit? Just do we know what happened?
I mean, nobody
he got
did.
paid off. He got paid off or something.
Yeah.
I let me tell you, I was very surprised in the opening credits that the title shot before they went into the movie was backgammon. Like it said game, it was backgammon.
Yes,
it was game of death. I'm like, I've never thought of that as like put a Russian roulette gun or something.
Yeah.
It was a backgammon board.
I saw that. I saw that and I was like,
cards or something. Yeah.
But the cards was cool because it was a dead man's hand. It was the dead man's hand, aces and eights. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's clever. But then I was like, backgammon, like what the fuck?
I honestly, I saw backgammon and I was like, is this a different version? Like maybe, because they have like Chinese checkers and whatever the fuck. That's a real thing, by the way. That was not an Americanized version. But I'm saying, in my mind, I'm like, do the Chinese have a version of backgammon that's more dangerous or more, so that, in my mind, I really thought that. I was like, I went that deep with it. Because I did see that backgammon and I was like,
they had a card slide too, like what the casinos use to deal cards out. They had one of those and it revealed, I think, like a death card of tarot or something.
Well, one of the things that like they really like in the periphery, not the story itself. It was all like the marketing of Billy Lowe. Bruce Lee, he died. Right. Remember Bruce Lee when he fucking died?
Yeah.
He's alive again in this movie. He fucking died. And that was like they leaned into it on the bookends. And at the beginning when they introduce, like they show the fighting with Chuck Norris and they show like other little clips of things. I'm telling you, if someone described this movie without mentioning any of the periphery, it would be pretty cool. I'd be like, oh shit, yeah. So he's like a kung fu movie star, and he's like, yeah, he's one of the biggest stars in China, and he's his wife is like a recording artist, and they're living in Hong Kong, and then the mob is trying to muscle in on their shit, and you would be like, oh, there's potential for intrigue and all this stuff.
I thought that same way.
Yeah.
I thought that that's why I asked for someone like
this.
I'm like, just release this movie without the Bruce Lee. I literally thought that you could just release this movie without the Bruce Lee stuff, and you would have had a better film.
And to be and to be honest, like I was watching this movie going like the whole time. I was like, if there was no way that could ever happen. They would have never made this movie without it being a Bruce Lee thing. They would have never made it. And the fact that they shoehorned it, like so much of not Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
That when he finally comes on screen in the fight scenes at the end, it's so glaringly obvious. The body movements, everything was so, the fighting stuff, the most iconic body in movie history up to that moment.
Yeah,
the most iconic body movements you could see from a mile away. Still to this day, people do Bruce Lee shit. Yeah. And the guy who was supposed to be Bruce Lee in this movie did none of it. At no point did they like Sammo Hung, who did the fight choreography.
Yeah.
At no point did he say, "Hey, we're gonna do Bruce Lee moves." He straight up did Jackie Chan moves, Sammo Hung moves, and I was watching this the whole time, like, why are they like at the second he comes on the screen, you're like, oh, this is infinitely better, infinitely more crisp, infinitely more choreographed.
Right.
And
the thing is, it's so you can tell because there was no reason for the Samuel fight with the white guy to last as long as it did. That was like 10 minutes of the movie was their fight, like which
pretty good.
Pretty great fight scene. Pretty great fight scene.
But but you could tell that they were like, we need filler for this. Let's do a 10-minute fight scene on two characters that really don't matter. Like, let's be real, they were in passing mentioned when they were talking about the posters. But
right,
I want to talk about the acting real quick because I want to tell you two of my favorite scenes. I want to see what you guys think. One was when the white guy finishes the fight and he's standing inside talking to the press, and the girl comes up to him, and I wrote down the dialogue.
Yep.
Who are you? Name's Julie. Hey everyone, this is my new girlfriend. Come take a bunch of pictures of her. And then he walks out to the other room, and they start interviewing her. Where are you from? Louisiana. Like what?
The 1978 version of Grab Him by the Pussy. Like it's just like it was just straight up like, you're hot. You're in my locker room. Clearly, you want some dick.
You're my girlfriend.
You're mine now.
I had a completely different understanding of that scene, as this is a new hot girl that the syndicate wants people to pay attention to, so we're gonna throw her at you, and then that was my interpretation.
That sounds way too intelligent to the script of this movie.
Again, not for the outline of the story. The execution was garbage. I feel like that might have been said at some point, but they never put it into the script or put it onto the screen. Because that's how I was giving this movie so much more credit.
Way more credit
than I should have. But I was like, oh, that's because remember, this whole fight was fixed. He was going to win, and they had the whole gambling shit worked out, and the odds changed and all that stuff. And then so when he wins, and he's like, he's like, who are you? Oh, I'm Julie. Hey, everybody, come meet new sensation, Julie. And then
but he didn't say new sensation.
He said my new girlfriend.
Again, I inferred a lot.
Right. Yeah. You should have written this script, Mike.
What was the other line?
My other one was the newspaper reporter. I don't know if you guys caught this part, but when he comes back inside and fake Bruce Lee calls him, and he's like, "Oh no, he's not here. Oh wait, he just walked in." He walks in, sits down, grabs the phone, and he goes like this, looks around twice, and then goes, "Hey, my phone's tapped. By the way, the mafia is trying to do this, and this." I'm like, what? First you looked around, and then you're like, my phone's tapped. Here's every exposition that I need to give you about what the mafia is doing.
This audio thing that has no visible cues, I'm going to look around for. And then the audio thing that's recording everything I say, I'm going to speak directly into it, all the things I suspected of listening.
Yes. That's like in those comedies when you whisper the wrong thing and then you say the wrong thing out loud. Yes. Like, you should have whispered that part and not what the fuck.
You did. Right. You did a thing with the.
Two things. Two scenes pop out of me. Three scenes. One was the girl, leave me alone. I mean, it was brutal. And then the other man. The other scene was Bruce Lee or fake Bruce Lee punching this guy on the floor when he's on the floor.
Oh my god!
And every punch was a hi-ya. Every punch, and he's no longer like I feel as if people don't understand why people hi-ya. I feel like these people didn't understand like why Bruce Lee was doing the hayas.
These people didn't understand a lot of things.
A lot of things. So like every punch was like hiya, 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 and it was like every punch, and it's like you're punching to the floor, like because you have them already on the floor, so it's all right. And then the other line was probably, as Michael Scott would put it, the most expensive shot in a movie. And it's when he says,
"Oh my god, oh, no. Yes,
you ruined my ranking system."
That is my ranking system, my friend. We have the same ranking system. Look, yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Wax! And I'm like, wax! I rewound that part 14
I
fucking
love that
times.
the bad guys were like, I know what'll trick him. Let me put a fake
I gotta be honest with you. Again, not a bad thought. Execution was awful, but not a bad thought. Like I'm gonna do his own trick. He faked his death. I'm gonna fake my death.
Yeah, but he did it in a casket.
Again, super clever. Again,
I thought it was clever.
I would have preferred like a string of pulleys doing this with the arms, like
like fucking like Ferris Bueller.
I was gonna, like Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, it's just yeah. It was something special. I couldn't fucking believe that I was seeing what I was seeing. And I was like, what the fuck did he just say? Like, what happened? And it was and that's the other thing. So somehow I guess I must have seen this in some documentary because I saw the Bruce Lee like Be Like Water documentary last year or the year before. So I guess I must have seen the Pagoda, the what's it called, the fucking Pagoda. I guess I must have seen an image of that somewhere because it wasn't in this movie. So I was like, oh, it's supposed to be.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't. What?
Hey, but you know what? Good writing because they set that up earlier with his fake wax body and
with his fake wax body. And then he says, Jesus. So bad.
I'm sorry.
I love you just reminded me though that the mafia boss that it was just like randomly throughout episodes. Oh yeah, I was meaning to ask you about that. How's that thing going with that guy? Oh yeah. Hey, forgot I was meaning to ask you about that. How's that thing going with that guy?
Yeah, one more final warning. One more final warning. Okay,
one more final warning. I don't think you know what final warning means.
Yeah. That's how that works.
So it was just a whole other level. I forgot what he was saying, but it's just whatever.
You know what killed me with this movie was the fact that they were able to kind of they foreshadowed Brandon Lee's thing.
Yo, okay. I was hoping someone would bring it up. Literally, they said the bullet from the gun shoots out wadding, the blank shoots up.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's literally what killed, or something got in the barrel of the gun. Not it wasn't a blank.
It was blank. Like shrapnel or something.
Something got in the barrel of the gun, or someone put something in a barrel, whatever.
Right.
But that I was watching this, and again, I had only seen the fucking footage of. I didn't hear what you said.
He said
Alec Baldwin.
Oh my god,
he never shoots blanks.
The idea that it was like. I'd not seen this movie. Again, when I kept thinking of the Game of Death, I kept thinking of the footage that I had seen in the documentary.
Right.
So when that part came out, I was like, what? Like, wait, what? Wait, has this been known the whole time?
Too soon. Too soon.
It was like wild. I was like, holy shit, that was shocking.
And how amazing was the acting of the assassin? That was the slowest gun drop I've ever seen in my life, that he was like,
yeah.
Like he slowly dropped it down. I was like, okay.
Well, he can't let on that he was shot for real immediately. That's acting what he was doing.
Yeah, but he just points. They know he's gonna point the gun anyway. But he slowly pointed the gun.
Mike, do you know that sharpshooters, like live ammo on sets, was like a thing up until the Screen Actors Guild? Like for all those cowboy movies and anytime there was stunts with a gun, there were professional sharpshooters that would sit there with real fucking bullets to make sure the bullets would hit near people, but not that they wouldn't get shot. And that was like a thing that was a real job. Like you could be a on-set film marksman, a professional.
I would be
marksman.
So terrified of that. Like,
and then what happened? And then you know what happened? and then you know what happened was. There were 3 guys in a Western, and they were running around, and one of them got shot for real. And he goes, hold on, let me see. What? And he went up to the horse, and he goes, let me see the gun. He goes, yeah, real bullets. Real bullets. Yeah, real bullets. Oh, you're so in trouble. You are so in trouble.
God, can we review that movie?
That would be amazing. I would love that.
Is that
I would...
a Kickflix movie?
Oh my god. I want to start another comedy movie review podcast.
Just so we can do it.
Comedies.
I would just do every week. We do the Three Amigos.
You guys.
I know you guys don't. I know you guys don't watch like the really, really crappy movies like I do. But
what are you talking about? We all saw this movie.
We
all watched this movie.
But so
this is the Kickflix podcast.
You know what?
We started this podcast specifically because we watched these.
In fact, the one movie that was pretty decent, we were like, "What the fuck are we doing watching this movie?"
Yeah,
we all got mad.
Like, what the fuck is this?
Well, no, but this isn't a martial arts movie.
Fucking real shit, guys. We don't want
But
to do
the
it.
editing and the way that this movie was put together, it reminded me if people that are listening have seen it. It's called Velocipaster. It came out a couple years ago, but it's gotten like this huge. But there's one shot at the beginning where they blow up a car, but when they shoot to where the car's supposed to be, it says "insert image of burning car out of budget." And that's the exact same way I felt. Like when I was watching this movie, I'm like, I feel like this is Velocipaster. Like the way that some of the shit's being shown. Like this is ridiculous. But
what's the rating?
It's got surprisingly 46% on Rotten Tomatoes by 13 critics, 63% audience score with 25,000 rating. I feel like a lot of that's because it's a Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are reviewing the last 11 minutes.
Right.
You know, like they're not reviewing the movie itself. And to be fair, good, fine. I mean, if that was the only way you were going to get this footage, because like this is a big as someone who was deep into the Bruce Lee worship, right? Like I studied Jeet Kune Do.
You were a Bruce Lee simp?
I was simping hard for Bruce Lee. All the be like water shit. I was like, the fucking Tao of Jeet Kune Do, reading all the books, Western philosophy, all the mixing of Western eating. I bought into all of that shit. And one of the things that happens is that you start to like deify, like you make them into gods. And what is that?
Yeah, that's Colleen Camp. Now,
wasn't she in
Clue?
Yes,
she was the French maid in Clue.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
She was
we got to. Okay. So we got to.
Right. But yeah, coming from someone who was like obsessed with Bruce Lee, like the idea that he like I've grown out of is that he is this like figure to be idolized and all that stuff. Yeah. Regardless of he was as a martial artist, as a cinematic persona, as a movie person, as a pop culture icon, there was probably none bigger in his moment, right? Yeah. Like he was fucking huge. And for them to like that's to say, like if Tom Cruise died right now, in 5 years, there's going to be a movie where they just use unused Mission Impossible footage of him running to make a track movie or something. You know what I mean? Like,
oh man. I mean, I get what you're saying, but you picked the wrong guy and the wrong thing because there's so much footage of him running. He would literally, you could make an 1.5-hour movie
of him
and
just
not
running.
of him just running and not repeat any clip.
Yeah.
Like
it's
just like
archival
100%,
footage.
100%.
Yeah.
All right, reviews, ratings, man. Mike, what's your rating?
I'm sticking with it. I'm gonna give it 2
with it too, buddy.
out of 5 wax heads.
2 out of 5. Wow. Okay, Jeff.
I'm giving it 2 because again, the idea, the movie itself, not the story around it, is kind of enjoyable in the story, but everything else is hot trash.
Okay, Jeff.
I'm giving it 1 out of 5 cane daggers. It's
was badass,
and his name was Stick. They called him Stick. That was it was like, but I'm going with something that we said a couple times. I'm going with the movie that was presented, not what could have been.
Right.
The story could have been great, but it wasn't because of what they did. Right. I agree 100% with you guys that the story could have. This story, if it was remade now,
the story was interesting, just not the execution.
I would love them to try to redo it now. Even though I know that she doesn't like him, but the actor that played him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, who looks more like him than any of the people they used in this did, and have them do it right now.
Right.
I think it could be a really cool type of movie. But
I would like to see this movie be remade now with any actor. It doesn't have to be a Bruce Lee lookalike. Just fucking give me any actor. I don't give a fuck.
That's
Give
true.
me any.
You're right.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Let Jackie Chan make this movie. I'm fucking fine with it. I'm fine. It's fine. I don't need it to be a Bruce Lee lookalike.
Well,
I'm gonna give it 1 out of 5 wax heads. Yeah, 1 out of 5 wax heads. It was, you know, I wasn't too fond of Enter the Dragon. So, and I was yearning for the days I was watching Enter the Dragon, watching this one. So,
I mean, Fist of Fury and Big Boss is supposedly they're a lot better. Than,
I mean, so again, not shitting on Bruce Lee's legacy or iconicness.
This is it. You didn't shit on him.
I was gonna say, I don't even know why I'm giving this disclaimer. This movie fucking did all the shitting on it and on his legacy.
It's not Bruce Lee.
Yeah, so
I'm offended that IMDb gives him a director credit because he shouldn't be attached to this.
All right, let's go to the wheel to see what else we're gonna watch. What's the next movie we're gonna watch? For those of you who are fans of the podcast, you know we spin the wheel to find out what we're gonna watch next. If you want to add a movie to the wheel, email us at kickflixpod@gmail.com. That's Kickflix, like Netflix, but with a kick. Kickflixpod@gmail.com. As of right now, we have 44 entries in the wheel.
Did you add the one I gave you?
Oh, I forgot to add. What was
45?
The movies were Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know if that's on there already.
Jiu-Jitsu.
A movie called Rampant, which is a martial arts zombie movie.
Rampant, got it.
Rampant.
46.
Rise of the Legend.
Rise of the. Is that the porn or which one?
Yes,
is that one?
it's Boogie Nights. Okay, Boogie Nights. 13 Assassins.
13 Ass.
Isn't that already on there?
I don't know if it's on there or not, but District B13 because it is technically a martial arts movie. I looked it up.
District B13.
And then I think did you ever finally put Showdown in Little Tokyo on there?
Showdown. That movie's awful. Showdown.
It has the greatest line in any fucking movie.
I know.
It gets a half a star just for that line.
All right. All right. So now we're up to 50 entries. Here we go. Let's spin it. We got to go. We're coming up against that clock, man.
Oh yeah, I love this movie.
Rumble
in
the Bronx. Yeah, Rumble in the Bronx is our next movie. Make sure you guys check it out. Check out the other podcasts on the Geek Bro Network that include, but are not limited to, the Better Let Me Tell You podcast, the What's Up Bro podcast, Childlike at Best with Mike Valdez. What else we got on there? The Woo Bro, What's Up Bro podcast. So make sure you got to go to geekbro.net. Check out the other podcasts on that network. Thank you very much. And that's how wax heads are exploded, man. That's how wax heads are.